The Guardian. Walter Hayes stepped out of his beat-up Honda Civic at exactly 7:45 a.m., just like every morning for the past 2 years, to walk 8-year-old Lily Martinez across the pedestrian bridge to Lincoln Elementary School. The prosthetic arm beneath his worn jacket moved stiffly as he helped the girl with her backpack, but Lily never noticed to her. Walter was just the quiet man who had saved her from the foster system and asked for nothing in return except that she do her homework and brush her teeth. What Walter didn't expect was the group of 6 motorcycles blocking the bridge entrance, their riders lounging against the railings like they owned the place. "Bridge is closed, old man," called out the largest biker, a man with prison tattoos covering his shaved head. His leather vest bore the patch "Road Serpents MC President" in bright red letters. "Find another way." Walter squeezed Lily's hand gently. "Excuse me, but we need to get across. The school is on the other side." The biker leader, his name tag read Tank, laughed and spat tobacco juice onto the sidewalk. "Yeah? And I need you to pay the toll." "Toll?" $20. Cash. Per person." Walter looked down at Lily, who was clutching her Disney Princess lunchbox and staring at the men with wide, frightened eyes. Her dark hair was pulled back in pigtails, just the way her father used to do it before he died in Walter's arms in a bombed-out building in Fallujah. "This is a public bridge," Walter said calmly. "There's no toll. There is now. 20 each, or turn around." The other bikers moved closer, forming a semicircle around Walter and Lily. The smell of motor oil and stale beer hung heavy in the morning air. One of them, a skinny man with needle tracks on his arms, kept glancing nervously at the school across the bridge where children were already arriving for class. "Look at this guy," Tank said to his crew. "Thinks he's some kind of tough guy with his fake arm." "That's not a fake arm," said another biker, a woman with bleached blonde hair and teardrop tattoos under her eyes. "That's one of them military prosthetics. Dude's probably a vet." "Even better," Tank grinned. "Disabled vet thinks he deserves special treatment." Before we continue with what happened next, if you found this story compelling, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Stories like Walter's need to be heard, and your support helps us share them with the world. Walter reached into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet with his good hand. The leather was worn thin from years of use, and inside was a photograph of a young Marine in dress blues corporal Danny Martinez, Lily's father. "Sir, we're just trying to get to school," Walter said, his voice still steady. "The girl is 8 years old." "Not my problem. Pay up or get lost." Walter counted the bills in his wallet. $12 all the cash he had until his disability check arrived on Friday. The rest of his monthly income went to rent, groceries, and Lily's school supplies. "I only have $12. Tank snatched the wallet from Walter's hand and flipped through it, examining the military ID card and VA medical card tucked inside. $12? What kind of deadbeat are you?" He looked at Walter's prosthetic arm and sneered. "Oh, I get it. Disabled vet, right? Probably got blown up doing something stupid overseas." Walter's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice level. "Can we please just pass? The girl will be late for school." "Tell you what, Gimp. You get down on your knees and beg, and maybe I'll let the kid through. You can find your own way around." The morning commuters who normally used the bridge had begun to gather at both ends, unsure whether to intervene or call the police. Some were taking photos with their phones, but no one stepped forward to help. What would you do in Walter's position? A man responsible for a child outnumbered 6-1 with no obvious way out? Write your thoughts in the comments. Lily tugged on Walter's jacket with her small hand. "It's okay, Mr. Walter. We can go the long way." "No, sweetheart," Walter said quietly, kneeling down to her eye level. "We're going to school the same way we always do." The biker president stepped closer, his breath reeking of alcohol and cigarettes. "You deaf as well as crippled? I said get on your knees." "That's not going to happen." Tank's expression darkened. "Then maybe the little girl can pay a different kind of toll. She's a pretty little thing." The words hung in the air like a threat. Walter felt something cold and familiar settle in his chest, the same feeling he'd had in Fallujah when insurgents had trapped his unit in an abandoned building. The same feeling he'd had when he'd crawled into that burning Bradley fighting vehicle to pull out Danny Martinez, even as the ammunition cooked off around them. Several commuters had pulled out their phones and were recording the confrontation. One woman called out, "Leave them alone. They're just trying to get to school." "Mind your own business, lady," Tank shouted back. "Unless you want some of this too." Walter stood up slowly, positioning himself between Lily and the bikers. With his good hand, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an old satellite phone military grade, heavily encrypted, with a direct line to people who still remembered Sergeant Walter Hayes of the 1st Marine Division. The phone was a relic from his days in Force Recon, when he'd led reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines. It had a single programmed number that connected directly to a classified military unit that officially didn't exist. He pressed a single button and said nothing, just held the phone for 3 seconds, then put it away. "What was that supposed to be?" Tank laughed. "You calling the cops? Newsflash, Grandpa owned half the police in this town." The other bikers joined in the laughter. The woman with the teardrop tattoos said, "Maybe he's calling his mommy." Walter knelt down to Lily's eye level again. "Remember what I taught you about staying calm in scary situations?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Breathe deep and count to 10. Good girl. In about 15 minutes, some of my old friends are going to come help us. Until then, we're going to wait right here." "Old friends?" Tank mocked. "What? The nursing home gang?" Walter didn't respond. He just stood there, holding Lily's hand, watching the road with the patient intensity of a man who had spent years in combat zones. The bikers grew increasingly agitated as minutes passed. They had expected either submission or a fight, not this calm, quiet waiting. "Before I tell you what happened next, I need to ask, how old are you? The next part of this story might be intense, and I want to make sure you're prepared for what Walter's old friends were capable of. Leave your age in the comments." At exactly 2 a.m. 17 minutes after Walter made the call, the rumble of heavy vehicles echoed from both directions. 2 armored personnel carriers rolled onto the bridge from opposite ends, their machine gun turrets tracking smoothly as they positioned themselves to block all exits. The vehicles were unmarked, painted in flat black with no identifying numbers or insignia. The bikers' laughter died in their throats. 4 black SUVs followed, disgorging men in tactical gear who moved with the precision of a special operations unit. No insignia, no identifying marks, just professionals who knew exactly what they were doing. The lead operator, a man in his 40s with the bearing of someone accustomed to giving orders in dangerous places, approached the bikers with casual authority. He wore no rank insignia, but everything about him screamed, "Officer! Gentlemen, face the wall, hands where I can see them." "What the fuck is this?" Tank demanded, his bravado cracking. "You can't just—" "I can do whatever I want," the operator replied calmly. "And right now, I want you to understand exactly who you just threatened." The bikers found themselves surrounded by operators who had trained for situations far more dangerous than 6 drunk motorcyclists on a bridge. These were men who had fought in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, places where split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death. "You see that man with the prosthetic arm?" the lead operator continued, pointing at Walter. "His name is Sergeant Walter Hayes, Honest Marine Division, Operation Phantom Fury. He lost that arm pulling a wounded soldier out of a burning Bradley fighting vehicle under enemy fire." One of the Bikursa younger men with gang tattoos covering his neck was visibly shaking now. "The little girl he's protecting? Her name is Lily Martinez. Her father was Corporal Danny Martinez, who died in Walter's arms in Fallujah. Walter promised Danny he'd look after his daughter if anything happened to him." The operator stepped closer to Tank, who was now pressed against the bridge railing with his hands behind his head. "For the past 2 years, Walter has walked this bridge every morning and afternoon, making sure Lily gets to school safely. He volunteers at the VA hospital on weekends. He tutors kids who need help with math. He asks for nothing and bothers no one. Look, we didn't know, Tank started. You didn't know because Walter doesn't talk about his service, doesn't brag about his medals, doesn't demand special treatment. He just takes care of people, the same way he took care of his Marines in Iraq. The operator gestured to his team, who began efficiently searching the motorcycles and recording serial numbers. One of them ran the plates through a military database that could access information civilian law enforcement couldn't touch. 3 of these bikes are stolen, the operator announced after receiving the results. 2 of you have outstanding warrants. One of you, he looked directly at Tank, is a registered sex offender who's not supposed to be within 1,000 feet of a school. The youngest biker, barely 18 with Road Serpent's prospect on his vest, began crying. But here's what's going to happen, the operator continued. You're going to disappear. Not permanently, we're not monsters. But you're going to leave this town, find new places to live, new clubs to join. Because if we ever see you bothering Walter or Lily again, if you even think about coming back here, we'll make sure you disappear permanently. The woman with the teardrop tattoos found her voice. You can't just threaten us. We have rights. The operator smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Ma'am, you just threatened a decorated Marine veteran and an 8-year-old girl. You forfeited your rights when you decided to extort money from people trying to get to school. Another operator approached and whispered something to the leader, who nodded grimly. It gets better, he announced. Turns out, this little toll booth operation of yours has been going on for 3 weeks. You've been extorting money from school children, elderly residents, and working parents trying to get across this bridge. Tank's face had gone pale. How do you know that? Because we've been watching you since the first complaint was filed with the FBI. Today was just the first time you picked the wrong target. The operator turned to Walter, who was still holding Lily's hand while she watched the proceedings with wide, curious eyes. Sergeant Hayes, our apologies for the delay. The bridge is secure. Walter nodded. Thank you, Captain. Always, Sergeant. Always. What do you think should happen to these bikers who threatened a decorated veteran and an orphan child? What would be appropriate justice? Share your thoughts in the comments. As the tactical team efficiently loaded the bikers into the back of one of the SUVs, Walter noticed that several of the operators were looking at him with something approaching reverence. One of them, a younger man with the bearing of a recent combat veteran, approached Walter hesitantly. Sergeant Hayes, I served with the Tuan Marines in Ramadi. We heard stories about what you did in Fallujah. It's an honor to meet you, sir. Walter nodded uncomfortably. Just doing my job, son. Sir, respectfully, what you did wasn't just a job. You saved 12 Marines that day. Some of them are still serving because of you. Walter looked down at Lily, who was tugging on his jacket. Mr. Walter, are these your Marine friends? Yes, sweetheart, they are. Are they going to make sure the bad men don't come back? They're going to make sure everyone is safe. The lead operator approached one final time. Sergeant, we're going to maintain a presence in this area for the next few weeks, just to make sure word gets out that this bridge is under protection. That's not necessary, Captain. With respect, Sergeant, it is. You've been taking care of that little girl and this community for 2 years. It's time someone took care of you. As the tactical team packed up their equipment and prepared to leave, the commuters who had witnessed the entire event began to approach Walter, but he had already taken Lily's hand and was walking toward the school. Come on, sweetheart. You're going to be late for first period. Mr. Walter? Yes. Were you really a hero in the war? Walter considered the question as they walked across the now empty bridge. I was a Marine, Lily. We take care of each other. Like how you take care of me. Exactly like that. That afternoon, when Walter returned to walk Lily home from school, he found a small bronze plaque mounted on the bridge railing where the confrontation had taken place. The plaque read, "This crossing is protected by Sergeant Walter Hayes, USMC. He never lets go. Never." Lily looked up at Walter with bright eyes. Does that mean the bad men won't come back? That means you're safe, Lily. Always. As they walked home, Walter noticed something different about their route. More people nodded to him. Shop owners waved from their doorways. Parents with children smiled and said thank you. Word had spread quickly through the small community. Not about the tactical operation that footage had mysteriously disappeared from all social media platforms within hours, but about Walter. About what he'd done in Iraq. About what he was doing now. Mrs. Chen from the corner market stopped them on their way home. Mr. Hayes, I wanted to thank you. My grandson uses that bridge every day to get to school. Those bikers scared him so much he was afraid to walk there alone. It's Walter, ma'am, and you don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You kept all our children safe. That evening, Walter's landlord called to tell him the rent on their small apartment had been adjusted to $0 per month, courtesy of an anonymous donor. The school principal called to inform him that Lily had been enrolled in the accelerated reading program and that her after-school tutoring was now free of charge, also courtesy of anonymous benefactors. The local VA chapter called to ask if Walter would consider speaking to younger veterans about transitioning to civilian life. Walter politely declined the speaking engagement, just as he declined the interviews from local news stations and the dinner invitations from grateful parents. He had no interest in being anyone's hero. He was just a man keeping a promise to a friend who had died in his arms 15 years ago. The final question before we finish this story: what's the most important thing a community can do to protect its veterans and the children they care for? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But the bronze plaque remained on the bridge, and every morning when Walter and Lily crossed it on their way to school, they walked a little taller. The town had learned something important that day. They had learned that heroes don't always look like heroes. Sometimes they look like quiet men with prosthetic arms who walk little girls to school and ask for nothing in return except the chance to keep an old promise. And they had learned that some promises are backed by forces that don't appear on any organizational chart, but respond instantly when the right person makes the right call. The satellite phone went back into Walter's drawer that night, where it would remain unless and until Lily needed protecting again. Which, given what had happened on the bridge, seemed increasingly unlikely. 3 weeks later, Lily came home from school with a drawing she had made in art class. It showed 2 figures walking across a bridge, a tall man with one arm and a little girl holding hands. At the bottom, in her careful second-grade handwriting, she had written, "My guardian angel doesn't have wings. He has one arm and the biggest heart in the world." Walter hung the drawing on their refrigerator, right next to the photograph of Corporal Danny Martinez in his dress blues. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, she asked him the question she asked every night. "Mr. Walter, will you tell me about my daddy?" "Your daddy was the bravest Marine I ever knew," Walter said, settling into the chair beside her bed. "He saved a lot of people, and he loved you more than anything in the world. Do you think he's proud of us?" Walter looked at the drawing on the wall, at the Bronze Star citation hanging beside it, at the Purple Heart he'd never told Lily he'd earned. "I think he's very proud, sweetheart. Very proud indeed." As Lily drifted off to sleep, Walter sat in his chair for a long time, thinking about promises kept and bridges crossed and the strange ways that honor finds its way home.